Welcome to our deep dive into the life of Alexander the Great.
Ah, yes.
You probably already know him as like this legendary conqueror.
Right, a household name.
But today, we're really going beyond that surface level.
Absolutely.
We've got this incredible biography
Oh.
that dives into all the complexities of his life, his military campaigns, and really like his personal side, too.
Interesting.
Drawing on some really intriguing historical accounts.
Yeah, I'm really excited to dig into this one.
Me too.
Yeah.
What's fascinating is that we're going to explore not just the conquest, but also like the man behind the myth.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
know, we got to look at what shaped him, his motivations, and ultimately, his lasting impact.
Right. It's amazing how much we think we know about these historical figures
Yeah.
until we like really dig into those details. This source material
Okay.
is packed with little-known stories
Oh, wow.
and unexpected insights.
Like what?
For instance, it delves into Alexander's lineage,
Okay.
going all the way back to Hercules and Achilles.
Yeah. Wow. So his lineage wasn't just royal, it was practically divine.
Right.
The biographer really emphasizes how this carefully crafted narrative,
Right.
linking Alexander to these legendary heroes, was central to his image,
Okay.
and it really fueled the expectations placed upon him.
I can only imagine.
It's no wonder he aimed for greatness from such a young age.
Right. Like imagine the pressure of living up to those names.
Absolutely.
And speaking of pressure, his upbringing was anything but ordinary.
Oh, really?
The biography paints this picture of a rigorous childhood
Okay.
under the tutelage of Leonidas, who was a governor at the time, who emphasized both physical and mental discipline.
Oh, wow.
There's this great anecdote where Alexander, like reflecting on his training later in life,
Yeah.
recalls how Leonidas would intentionally make him uncomfortable,
Interesting.
even when surrounded by luxury.
Wow.
And the biographer highlights Alexander's frugality. Even after conquering vast empires, amassing this immense wealth, he would often reminisce about how Leonidas would have him march all night,
Oh, my God.
just to build up an appetite for a simple breakfast.
Really?
So it's clear that this early training really instilled in him a sense of resilience and self-control.
Right, which would obviously serve him well later
It's
on.
on the battlefield.
Yeah, for sure.
It sounds more like a Spartan training regimen
I was going to say.
than your typical royal upbringing.
Right.
But beyond the physical hardship, the biography also points to the influence of his other tutors.
Right, of course.
Lysimachus, for instance, instilled in him a deep love for Homer's epics,
Oh, interesting.
which would shape his worldview and fuel his ambition.
Ah, I see.
And of course, we can't forget Aristotle,
The guy.
the renowned philosopher
Right.
who tutored Alexander in politics, philosophy, and ethics.
Yeah.
The biographer suggests that Aristotle's teachings encouraged Alexander's intellectual curiosity and provided him with a framework for understanding leadership and governance.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we have this young Alexander, steeped in the tales of legendary heroes,
Yeah.
trained in both mind and body,
Right.
exposed to the wisdom of great thinkers.
It all makes sense now.
It's no surprise that his military career began early, even before his father's death.
Yeah, absolutely. The biography details Alexander's experience as regent while his father, Philip II, was away on campaigns.
Oh, so he wasn't just like a figurehead.
No, this wasn't just a symbolic role. He was given real responsibilities.
Wow.
And at the Battle of Chaeronea, when he was just 18,
Okay.
he led a crucial cavalry charge that helped secure a decisive Macedonian victory.
Wow.
This really solidified his reputation as a skilled and courageous military leader.
Talk about a trial by fire.
Exactly, but then, just as Alexander was coming into his own, everything changed.
What happened?
Philip II was assassinated
Oh, wow.
under mysterious circumstances.
So the biographer recounts the events surrounding Philip's assassination.
Yeah, and dives into all the swirling rumors and conspiracy theories that followed.
Ooh, like,
While some whispered that Olympias Alexander's mother was involved,
really?
driven by ambition and a desire to secure her son's position.
Wow.
While the truth may be lost to history,
Right.
this event really threw the kingdom into turmoil and created a power vacuum that Alexander, despite his youth, was quick to fill.
He didn't just fill it, he took control.
Right.
With a fierceness that shocked many.
Yeah. The biography describes how he swiftly consolidated power,
Oh,
quelling rebellions within Macedonia, asserting his dominance over the Greek city-states.
Wow, so his actions were decisive.
Very much so.
Ruthless, even.
Yeah, and sent a clear message.
What was that?
Alexander was not to be underestimated.
It's important to understand that his ascent to power wasn't just about ambition.
Right. It was also about securing stability in a volatile region.
Right.
He faced numerous challenges, both internal and external,
Okay.
and he needed to act quickly and decisively to maintain control.
And with that control secured, he set his sights on a truly audacious goal, the conquest of the Persian Empire.
Wow.
Can you imagine the audacity,
Fathom.
the sheer ambition of a young king leading his army across the Hellespont?
Right? The narrow straits separating Europe and Asia.
It was a bold declaration,
Yeah.
a symbolic crossing that signaled the start of his legendary campaign.
The biographer beautifully captures the symbolism of this moment.
Okay.
He describes Alexander's visit to the Troad, the site of the Trojan War.
Right, immortalized in Homer's Iliad.
Exactly.
I can only imagine.
There, Alexander paid homage to the heroes of the past,
Okay.
further linking himself to the legendary figures of Greek mythology
Wow.
and solidifying his image as a warrior destined for greatness.
It's like he was deliberately crafting his own epic narrative,
I was just thinking that.
drawing parallels between himself and the heroes of old. And he wasn't just relying on symbolism. His military victories spoke for themselves.
Right, the Battle of the Granicus River, for example, was a decisive win against the Persian forces.
And the biographer really vividly describes Alexander's personal courage and strategic brilliance.
Yeah, he led from the front,
Mm-hmm.
inspiring his troops,
Oh.
routing the enemy.
So this victory really sent shockwaves through the Persian Empire.
Oh, absolutely. It announced Alexander's arrival as a force to be reckoned with.
And that was just the beginning.
Right next came the Battle of Issus,
Okay.
a stunning victory,
Tell me about it.
where Alexander's army, initially caught off guard by the Persian forces,
Okay.
rallied and defeated Darius III,
Wow.
the Persian king himself.
So the biographer highlights how this victory,
Yes.
achieved against a numerically superior enemy,
Mm-hmm.
cemented Alexander's reputation as a military genius.
Right. He outsmarted and outmaneuvered Darius, using the terrain to his advantage and exploiting weaknesses in the Persian lines.
Wow, a display of tactical brilliance.
That would be studied for centuries to come.
But it wasn't all grand battles and strategic maneuvers. The Siege of Tyre, for instance, showcased a different side of Alexander's military prowess.
So this heavily fortified island city
Right.
posed a formidable challenge.
Okay.
But Alexander's determination and ingenuity prevailed.
This siege, which lasted for months,
Yeah.
really tested his patience and resources.
Right. The biographer details the various strategies he employed,
Look what?
including the construction of a massive causeway to reach the island
Wow.
and the use of innovative siege engines.
Really?
The eventual fall of Tyre demonstrated Alexander's unwavering commitment to victory,
Right.
but it also revealed a growing ruthlessness in his approach to warfare.
Yeah, it's a stark reminder that war, even when waged by a brilliant strategist, comes at a heavy price.
Oh, absolutely.
But then amidst these brutal campaigns comes a conquest of a different kind,
Okay.
Egypt.
Ah, yes.
The biographer describes a relatively peaceful takeover,
Okay.
where Alexander was welcomed as a liberator
Interesting.
rather than a conqueror.
Yeah. This event marks an interesting shift in his approach. Instead of imposing his will through force, he embraced diplomacy and cultural understanding.
Right.
He even went so far as to found the city of Alexandria,
Really?
a testament to his vision of blending Greek and Egyptian cultures.
It's almost like he was starting to see himself as more than just a conqueror.
Right, maybe a unifier.
Yeah, builder of empires rather than a destroyer.
I like that.
But his ultimate showdown with the Persian Empire was still to come.
Right, the decisive clash took place at Gaugamela,
Okay.
a battle that would determine the fate of an empire.
And what a battle it was.
Oh yeah, the biographer paints a vivid picture of the clashing armies, the dust and the noise, the
Yeah.
sheer scale of the confrontation.
So Alexander once again demonstrated his military genius, leading his troops to victory.
Against a vast Persian army led by Darius himself.
This victory marked the fall of the Persian Empire,
It did.
an incredible achievement for a leader who was still in his early 20s.
Unbelievable. But with this triumph, Alexander's journey takes on a new dimension. He's no longer just a conqueror.
Right.
He's now the ruler of a vast and diverse empire.
And this transition from conqueror to ruler is where we'll pick up next time,
Looking forward to it.
in part 2 of our deep dive.
Absolutely.
We'll explore how Alexander grappled with the challenges of governing his newly acquired territories,
Mm-hmm.
the tensions that arose within his own ranks,
Yeah.
and ultimately the choices that shaped his legacy.
Can't wait.
Last time we left off with Alexander standing triumphant.
Yeah, having just brought down the Persian Empire.
But as we dig deeper into this source material,
Okay.
it becomes clear that this victory was just the beginning of a whole new chapter.
Interesting.
Alexander wasn't content with simply conquering.
Right.
He wanted to rule, to shape the world in his image.
What's intriguing is that Alexander's approach to ruling was just as bold and unconventional as his military strategies.
Yeah, I mean, he occupied the Persian capitals.
Babylon, Susa, Persepolis.
But rather than like imposing Macedonian culture,
Right.
he started adopting Persian customs himself.
It's almost like he was trying to bridge the divide.
Yeah, between conqueror and conquered.
The biography even describes how he started wearing Persian clothing
Oh, really?
and adopting certain ceremonial practices,
Wow.
much to the dismay of his Macedonian troops.
The biographer suggests that this wasn't just a political strategy,
Right.
but perhaps a genuine fascination with Persian culture.
Yeah, Alexander, remember, was tutored by Aristotle,
Of course.
who instilled in him this thirst for knowledge and an openness to different ways of life.
That makes sense, but even as he embraced Persian custom, he couldn't escape the shadow of Darius III,
Right, the deposed Persian king.
who was still at large.
The biography recounts the dramatic pursuit of Darius, who was eventually betrayed and killed by his own satraps.
Wow, what's notable is that Alexander, upon learning of Darius's death, mourned him as a worthy adversary
He did.
and ensured that his family was treated with respect.
It's a glimpse of the complexity of Alexander's character.
Right, he could be ruthless in battle,
Yeah,
but also capable of compassion and respect for his enemies.
exactly. But as his reign continued,
Okay,
that ruthlessness seemed to resurface,
really?
particularly in the case of Parmenio.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
One of his most trusted generals.
This was a dark turn of events.
The biography details how Parmenio was accused of treason, a charge that many believed was fabricated
Yeah.
and executed on Alexander's orders.
This incident highlights a growing paranoia within Alexander,
Okay.
perhaps fueled by the pressures of ruling such a vast and diverse empire.
Right, he was surrounded by potential rivals,
Vast.
constantly on guard against betrayal.
It makes you wonder if the weight of power, the constant fear of assassination, ultimately warped his judgment.
But even as these internal tensions brewed, Alexander's ambition continued to drive him eastward.
Of course.
He wasn't content with simply ruling the former Persian Empire. He wanted to push the boundaries of his conquests even further.
It's fascinating that even after achieving what most would consider a lifetime's worth of victories,
Yeah.
Alexander was still driven by this insatiable thirst for exploration and conquest.
Really? The biographer describes how he led his army across the Hindu Kush Mountains.
Right, a formidable barrier.
And engaged in battles with fierce Scythian tribes.
These were not symbolic conquests,
Right.
but brutal and challenging campaigns.
Yeah.
That pushed his army to its limits.
It's almost hard to fathom the sheer scale of his ambition.
I know, but his ultimate target lay further east, in the land of India.
The biography really focuses on Alexander's crossing of the Indus River.
Right, where he encountered a formidable opponent in King Porus.
Oh yeah, Porus and his army equipped with war elephants.
Yeah, those war elephants.
Put up a fierce resistance,
They did.
surprising the Macedonians who had never faced such creatures in battle.
The biographer vividly describes the chaos and terror these massive animals inflicted on the Macedonian ranks. But, as always, Alexander adapted his strategies,
Okay.
demonstrating his tactical brilliance and ultimately securing victory.
But what's remarkable is that instead of crushing Porus,
Right.
Alexander chose to make him an ally.
Yeah, recognizing his strength and strategic value.
It shows a growing maturity in Alexander's approach to leadership.
I think so.
He was learning that maintaining an empire required more than brute force.
Absolutely.
It also demanded diplomacy.
And a willingness to forge alliances.
Exactly. He was starting to grasp the complexities of ruling such a vast and diverse territory, realizing that cooperation could be just as powerful as conquest.
But his troops,
Right?
weary from years of constant campaigning, didn't necessarily share his vision of endless expansion.
The biography recounts this pivotal moment on the banks of the Hyphasis River,
Oh, yeah.
where Alexander's exhausted troops, faced with the prospect of venturing even further into unknown lands, finally mutinied.
Wow. This was a turning point for Alexander.
Right, for all his ambition and drive. He was forced to acknowledge the limits of his power.
You can't conquer the world if your own army refuses to follow.
The biographer captures the drama of this moment,
He does.
describing Alexander's frustration and disappointment,
Right.
but also his ultimate acceptance of the situation.
He realized that even the greatest conqueror must sometimes bow to the will of his troops.
So with his dreams of conquering India thwarted, Alexander made the difficult decision to turn back.
But the return journey was far from easy.
The biography details that harrowing journey through the Gadrosian Desert, where Alexander and his army faced scorching heat, limited supplies, and constant attacks from local tribes.
It's a sobering reminder of the harsh realities of ancient warfare. And the toll it took on even the most hardened soldiers.
But amidst these hardships, there was a glimmer of triumph.
Oh, really?
The biographer describes Alexander's reunion with his fleet, led by Nearchus, which had completed a daring voyage from the Indus River all the way to the Persian Gulf.
So this voyage, which involved navigating treacherous waters and uncharted territories, was a remarkable feat of seamanship and exploration.
It really expanded geographical knowledge. And demonstrated the potential for seafaring as a means of connecting distant lands.
Back in Persia, Alexander focused on consolidating his vast empire, working to integrate the diverse cultures under his rule.
He even arranged mass marriages between his Macedonian soldiers and Persian women.
A bold attempt to foster unity and create a new hybrid culture.
Well, the biographer suggests that this was more than just a political maneuver. It was a vision of a world where cultural boundaries were blurred. And different peoples could live together in harmony.
But even as Alexander strove to build a lasting legacy, tragedy struck close to home.
What happened?
His beloved friend and companion Hephaestion died unexpectedly.
The biographer describes the profound grief that overwhelmed Alexander.
Upon Hephaestion's death.
He ordered a lavish funeral.
He did.
Erected monuments in his honor. And even consulted oracles. Desperate to find some way to cope with his loss.
It's a reminder that even the most powerful individuals are not immune to the pain of loss and the fragility of life.
And perhaps this profound grief, this sense of mortality, fueled Alexander's restless spirit.
It could have.
Driving him to seek solace in action, in new conquests, in the pursuit of lasting glory.
And so we find Alexander arriving in Babylon. This ancient city steeped in history and legend, ready to embark on a new chapter of his extraordinary life.
But as we'll see, fate had other plans for the young conqueror. So we left off with Alexander in Babylon.
This incredible ancient city.
Seemingly ready to launch into yet another ambitious campaign.
He was a man in constant motion.
Always.
Driven by this relentless energy.
The source material really emphasizes that.
It does. What's interesting is that Babylon itself held a special significance for Alexander.
In what way?
Well, he saw its potential as a strategic center. A crossroads of trade and culture.
It makes sense.
The biographer mentions his ambitious plans to rebuild and expand the city.
Wow, to make it a truly magnificent capital.
Worthy of his vast empire.
It's like he was envisioning Babylon as a symbol of his legacy.
A testament to his vision of a unified world.
But as we know, those plans were never realized.
The biography recounts Alexander's sudden illness.
This mysterious ailment.
That struck him down at the height of his power.
It's crazy to think about.
I know, right? Was it a fever brought on by exhaustion? The consequence of years of hard living? Or something more sinister?
I mean, there were whispers of poisoning, weren't there?
Oh, absolutely. Perhaps orchestrated by those who feared his growing power or resented his embrace of Persian customs.
The biographer really dives into these rumors.
Presenting the various theories surrounding Alexander's death without reaching a definitive conclusion.
So it remains one of history's enduring mysteries.
It does. But what is clear is that Alexander, the invincible conqueror, was suddenly confronted with his own mortality.
He was just 32 years old.
It's hard to imagine the shock that must have rippled through his empire.
The uncertainty and fear
that gripped his generals and the conquered peoples alike.
So the biographer describes the chaos and confusion that followed Alexander's death.
In Babylon, his generals, the Diadochi, immediately began vying for power.
Wow, their fragile unity shattered.
By ambition and rivalry.
So the very empire he had strived to create, the world he had reshaped through his conquests, began to fracture almost as soon as he was gone.
The biographer highlights how Alexander's death, rather than bringing stability, ushered in an era of conflict and instability.
Wow, his vast empire was divided amongst his generals.
It was leading to decades of war and struggle for dominance.
It's a tragic irony that the man who sought to unify the world ultimately left behind a legacy of division.
It really makes you think about the true cost of conquest.
Right.
The ripple effects of ambition.
That extend far beyond a single lifetime.
But even in death, Alexander's influence continued to be felt.
In what way?
The biographer discusses the impact of Alexander's conquests on the spread of Greek culture and ideas throughout the ancient world.
His campaigns really facilitated the exchange of knowledge, art, and philosophy.
Wow, creating a cultural fusion that would shape the course of history. So while his empire may have fragmented, his legacy lived on.
In the blending of cultures, the exchange of ideas.
Yeah, the seeds of a new world that he had sown.
It's a complex and multifaceted legacy.
It is full of contradictions and enduring questions.
And that's what makes this deep dive so compelling.
I agree.
It's not just about learning the facts of Alexander's life, but about grappling with the complexities of his character, the impact of his choices.
And the enduring fascination we hold
for this larger-than-life figure.
He was a man of immense ambition, capable of both great brilliance and devastating ruthlessness.
He was a conqueror, a king, a visionary.
And ultimately a tragic figure.
He reshaped the world in his own image.
He did, but perhaps at a cost that was too high.
And we're left to wonder what might have been. How history might have unfolded differently.
If he had lived longer.
If his vision of a unified world had been given more time to take root.
Those are questions that historians continue to debate.
And that each of us must answer for ourselves.
As we reflect on the life and legacy of Alexander the Great,
this deep dive has provided us with the information,
the insights, the nuanced perspective
to form our own conclusions.
So as we conclude this exploration of Alexander the Great, we invite you to continue the journey.
To delve deeper into the sources, to consider the multiple perspectives,
and to ponder the enduring mysteries
that surround this legendary figure.
What do you think? Was he a hero? A villain?
Or something in between?
How do you reconcile his brilliance with his brutality?
And what ultimately was the true cost of his ambition?
We'll leave those questions for you to consider.
As we wrap up this deep dive into the life and legacy of Alexander the Great,